Alright, so I can start. My name is Ludvig, and I studied here last year on an exchange, an Erasmus exchange from Sweden. And yeah, I got to know Edmund here, and we decided to do a competition together in our spare time because we wanted a challenge, and we also thought the project seemed very rewarding. It was nice to do something local in Delft as well. Maybe you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Edmund, like Ludvig mentioned. I'm from the UK. But came over here to do my full masters at TU Delft as well. Like Ludvig said, that's where we met. I saw the competition advertised on a poster by Stilos in the faculty, and yeah, we thought it sounded like an interesting project to get involved with. And yeah, so we decided to develop a scheme and to enter into the competition. The intention was to create a building in collaboration with Stilos and the Gemeente, as I understand it, and also, you know, to welcome in the kind of local community as well. The restrictions behind the competition brief were largely centered around the scale of it. So I think it was a 4x4 meter plan, max 10 meters tall, but they also wanted to see it striving for, you know, like circular principles. And it should be reflective of, you know, green building strategies and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so basically instead of using screws or nails or glue to hold the timber together, we're basically using several timber members to create a sandwich, which can then hold a horizontal member in between themselves. And then we use industrial packaging straps made out of steel around the sandwich, which clamps it down and holds things in place. And that's basically the whole construction principle from the foundation up.
We were looking for, another part of the brief was that it had to be buildable by volunteers. That was central to it, so very limited building experience, you know, layman basically. And so we were looking for a method which anybody could do. You know, the tensioners we're using to tighten up these black straps, you know, they're really, really simple to use. And the idea came from a shelter at the Dutch Design Week in Eindhoven in 2017
yeah.
Called the People's Pavilion. I can't remember the architects now. You remember the architects?
No, but it was Arup Engineering.
Arup were the engineers on it, yeah. And that was just a shelter, big sort of shelter overhead. And we thought it was an interesting principle. So we thought we'd try and take that idea, that concept, and adapt it into a more versatile structure that allowed you to climb up and down it as well.
So I think we optioned for timber mostly because of the flexibility of that material. Like we can obviously cut everything to size on site, and also there's a like an ecological advantage of using timber. Like obviously it captures CO2, and this timber we use is unplaned and unsanded, so once the structure gets taken apart you can plane it down and use it in other construction projects, which you couldn't do with like concrete, for example, because you would have to demolish it.
With the design process, so I mean, we decided quite quickly, given that it was a competition, that we should do the project in this method of using strapping, you know, no nuts, no bolts, as Ludvig says. I think we made that decision in a week or something, and then for the following year we were then basically trying to rationalize that decision. So that was probably one of the biggest issues, was, okay, now we've made this commitment of only using the straps, how do we actually make a building work out of that? In the end, we had to use a couple of bolts to secure the tower to the foundations. So if you look at the tower at the very base, you'll see bolts connecting at the bottom, but that was completely unavoidable. But bolts, of course, can be undone, taken out, so again, it's circular, you know, it's a dry connection, it's not a wet connection.
Yeah, so the initial idea was to build in April of 2020, and I mean that didn't happen for a multitude of reasons, coronavirus being one of them, but also I think that timeline was a bit optimistic from the start, but then Corona probably postponed it more than it would have had otherwise, and obviously it has some implications now as well, because we can't be as many people on site maybe, and we're not sure if we can like open up the tower the way we want it when it's done as well. But we're just hoping for a better spring and a better summer, I think. Well, what I think stood out in the competition, because there was a lot of good entries, at least the ones that we saw, was that ours, I think we spent a bit more time actually thinking about how it was going to be built and really going the length to show that this can be built, this can be made with volunteers. It's quite simple in its construction. I think that's what kind of made it stand out, and it was also the only other competition entry we saw that was made out of timber. Any point you want to add to that?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, timber as a material taps in quite well to the existing vernacular here at iChange. You know, lots of kind of knocked together buildings and stuff made from timber, so I suppose that kind of fits the MO as well.
The site was given by the brief by the municipality, so it kind of goes along with this iChange the restaurant and everything, so the theme is circularity, really. So the spot was chosen, and yeah, we didn't really do much with that. And the purpose of the tower is, besides obviously showing like a novel construction technique on the theme of circularity, I think it also is to also just include people in the process of this whole new part of Delft that is being built. Obviously 10 meters is quite the high point, especially in a flat place like Delft, and you can see quite far. And just get a nice overview of the new developing area. Like, we obviously learned most, I think, is from these 2 weeks here on site. Like, none of us had any construction experience really, especially not with our own designs. And looking in hindsight, there were a few things that we would have done differently that could have saved us a couple of days. Nothing drastic, but it's just like, it was a bit of a hassle, like being knee deep in mud for a couple of days, laying the foundation and stuff like that, which we would have thought more of in hindsight. There's a lot of things that are like, it looks very easy to construct when you look in a Rhino model, but once you're actually here and you feel the weight of the members, is a whole different thing.
I just add as well, we'd also really need to mention a few organisations who helped us make the tower possible. Another constraint that we had was a very small budget to build this tower. And so it wouldn't have been possible at all without the generosity of a few organisations. Douglas Hout provided the timber that you see in the tower at an amazingly discounted price to help us out, because they wanted to see the tower built. Likewise, From Packaging Solutions sold us the black straps that you see there, but also lent us the tools we need to apply them. Stop Digging, who are a fantastic screw pile company, have supplied and installed the screw pile foundations, which are beneath the ground, completely free of charge. Wonderful guys, Hugo there. Ballast Nadam are a big building company who are working with the new Delft development, and they've been giving us both their tools, their times. The container over there is theirs, their safety regulations. We've had 2 of their carpenters on site. Yeah, and finally, the engineers, Glass Swinging Structures, Rob and Atta, have been phenomenal. They put so much time into this project. Being quite an innovative building method, it's very complicated to figure out how it safely comes together, and they put in a lot of time to make sure that it works, and really helped us out. Being, you know, non-Dutch speaking as well, they've helped us bridge the gap between our student existence and the existence of the gemeente. So yeah, we would be remiss if we didn't mention those organisations.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like, we'll be done next week with the construction of it. To go up into it, that's completely up to gemeente Delft, because they are gonna own the tower when it's completed. And right now, I think the current Corona regulations can't really allow people to be up there. And also, I'm not sure who wants to climb it in February, but come April, come May, yeah, that might open up. We'll make sure it's open at some point. Thank you.
Thank you.